allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the April 24th, 2017 meeting of the Shawnee County Board of Commissioners. My name is Bob Archer. I currently serve as chair of the commission and represent District 3 alongside Commissioner Shelley Bueller, who represents District 1, and Commissioner Kevin Cook, who represents District 2. Welcome and good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
First item, please.
Under proclamations, presentation regarding the inclusion of the Midwest Health Aquatic Center on the cover of the Parks and Rec Business magazine, along with an article regarding Shawnee County's aquatic centers.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Knight, Parks and Recreation. I'll kind of stall while these guys get the PowerPoint up and ready to go. But we did want to, some recent news came about when the most recent edition of the Parks and Rec Business magazine came out. Midwest Health Aquatic Center was on the cover, was on the cover, and a very nice story about our aquatics programs and how we're dealing with the issues in Topeka and Shawnee County. And with that, I'll turn this over to Mike McLaughlin and Dave Alliker to kind of fill you in.
Good morning. As John mentioned, this is now the second time in a year's time that our aquatic centers have been featured in the National Trade Journal. We believe that with this being featured in the April issue of Parks and Rec Business magazine, it's a sign that we are, an indication we are being innovative and serving the public, and that our industry is taking note. Our Deputy Director is Terry Bertles, who oversaw the construction of Midwest Health Aquatic Center. Randy Luby, who was instrumental in the construction of Shawnee North Family Aquatic Center, gave some good input for this article. And Dave Alliker, our aquatics supervisor, who's here to tell you more about it, did the research that added some of the pop to the article. If you notice on the cover, if we can get this to go. There we go. It said setting aquatics on fire. Dave looked up an old Topeka Capital Journal article in which Mike Blaisdell, who is the son of the namesake of Blaisdell Family Aquatic Center, climbed atop a tower wearing long johns, doused himself in lighter fluid, and set himself afire, then swan dived into the pool.
No, I would not do that.
Dave looked at John and said, "I can do that." And he goes, "But you won't." Dave got his ladder and said, "Watch me." No, I'll turn it over to Dave Alliker now.
Good story.
Morning, Commissioners. David Alliker, Shawnee County Parks and Rec. Just kind of highlight some of the ideas. I actually operate 7 different aquatic facilities. This article features the main 3, which is Blaisdell, Midwest, and Shawnee North. Go ahead and start with Blaisdell. It was in 2000 when it was remodeled. It was originally considered one of the biggest concrete pools in the state of Kansas. When it was revamped, state-of-the-art drop slides, alligator slide, spray features. We're actually in the process of replacing some of those amenities now with some more up-to-date stuff. Midwest, this is kind of our crown jewel. One of the biggest, most inventive technology that's ever been done in the United States, which is the wave pool. 35-foot slide tower is one of the top 10% in municipal pools in the United States. We're running 5 slides off here now, and we have 2 more spots for 2 more slides for later on for future use. We also have zip lines. This is more of a small aquatic park versus a municipal pool. With a lot of the input from the public, we were right on spot on this facility. Maybe? What? I skipped one. Technology's awesome until it doesn't work.
Now you got to skip out and get back in.
Please stand by. Technical difficulty. Enter.
Get it to. I don't know what's going on.
Okay. Anyway, I can ad lib. I've been known to do that a couple times. Make everybody nervous that way. Our other facility is Shawnee North. It was built in '06. It was state-of-the-art at that point in time as well. We have a lazy river there that is utilized through therapeutic reasons with our water walking, as well as recreational. We have the plunge slides there as well. We also teamed up with the high school up there, and we themed it as a Viking theme. And a lot of the faux rock around there is also still around in some of the publications that are floating with the companies. That's overall, in a nutshell, what we have in our main 3 facilities. Give you some numbers. Last year, we were open 23 days for MAC. We served 15,000 people. So that is our hot spot. I'm interested in seeing what it will do this year. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Questions?
Everything's getting ready to, I know, springtime's here, summer's just around the corner. Everything's coming up to speed. Are we looking at?
I'm still looking for lifeguards if anybody knows of a lifeguard.
All right,
So.
that's what I wanted to pitch out to you, what we're looking for, what we need.
All right.
We're looking for a lot of lifeguards. How many?
Yes.
Give us an idea.
I need 93 lifeguards at this point in the game.
Wow. Lifeguards.
Still early, I'm hoping. If not, we'll get by. I have ideas up my sleeve.
And ages for lifeguards.
16 years of age minimum.
So,
Okay.
And the pay is?
Starting out at 8. If they take a class to teach swim lessons, we bump them up to $8.50 right off the bat.
Okay.
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 so
Anything else?
Perhaps with our media here, we might be able to find some summer employment.
You were looking at Eric when you said that.
Workforce development.
Workforce development. Okay. Yes,
Just
Commissioner.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. And yeah, all the information on employment is on our website as
Yes.
well.
Oh,
You will. And if they have any questions, they can call me as well.
Good.
All right.
thank you, David.
Thank you.
Excellent job. Well done. Next item, please.
Item 3, consent agenda.
Questions or comments on the consent agenda?
I do not.
I do not. I will move approval.
Second.
Motion made to approve the consent agenda by Commissioner Bueller, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye, opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item 4, new business. A, County Clerk, number one, consider all voucher payments.
Mr. Chairman, that we have the vouchers that have been presented this morning that total $1,204,723.89. The highlights out of that voucher report would be payroll of $471,058.54, solid waste of $197,852.62, Public Works $124,809.01, Equipment Fund of $133,279. We have Parks and Recreation of $70,431.84. Those were mostly utility costs. We have holding accounts with the state of Kansas of $38,674.46, and finally, health insurance of $18,319.35. I do not have any questions. I would move for the approval of the vouchers.
I second.
Motion made to approve the vouchers by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye, opposed say no, and that motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made to approve the correction orders by Commissioner Bueller, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye, opposed no, and that motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item B, Health Department, number 1, public hearing on behalf of Greg Armbruster and the White family for an appeal of the denial of a variance request for the county environmental code by the county Health Department regarding sanitary sewer septic systems on a parcel of land between Northwest Dundee and Northwest Button Road between 39th and 41st Street.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ed Kalis with the Health Department. I'm basically here to introduce Mr. Armbruster and the White family so they can present their appeals to a denial for variance request that we gave them in March. And we went ahead and made the request on their behalf. So I will go ahead and introduce Mr. Armbruster now, unless you have questions ahead of time.
I did want to go through a few of the, I was in communication with the county councilor over the weekend as far as the process, and he made some good points, and I wanted to make sure I covered them before we get too started. First is that this hearing is not actually a public hearing as listed on the agenda. It is a quasi-judicial hearing instead. And the issue for the hearing is whether the Health Department's denial of the applicant's request for a variance from the Shawnee County Environmental Code should be affirmed or reversed by the Board of County Commissioners. And Jim gave me an 8-step process to go, and I'm going to use that process and make a motion that we open the hearing.
Second.
Motion made to open the hearing by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. The next item on the list is ask the applicants to present their position on the application. So, please.
Yeah, I'm Greg Armbruster. I have something to hand out.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Give one to Tim.
Mr. One for the clerk, please. Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm here on behalf of Charles White. He's one of the brothers that owns this property. And they had contacted me to try to market the property. So that's why I'm helping them with this. Basically, the first page I've handed out here is an aerial view of the 4 proposed lots. The whole aerial view here is of the 30 acres that belong to the White family who lived in that residence on the upper right-hand corner. And several years ago, they gave permission to run that interceptor line through the middle of this property there. You can see it there kind of sort of to the left. And I wanted to make sure you understood where these lots were. There's 2 lots at the top, tract 3 and 4. That's along Donde Lane, and 2 at the bottom there, tract 1 and 2. These are 5-acre lots. And along the bottom, there used to be 3 lots that was there, and that's why those are crossed out and made into 2. But I wanted you to see that the terrain here of this creek that runs down the kind of the left side of the property, it's a very deep creek, and this land is not conducive at all to any kind of development as far as small lots and putting roads in and houses. In fact, there's a limited number of places where you can even put a house under the situation we have here with these 4 lots, because of not being able to build on top of that interceptor or where that creek is. So it's just impossible to any kind of streets or subdivision. And then the costs to hook into the sewer I've got on the second page. It's kind of a summary there. And one of the things that wasn't in that is, and it was stated up above there in that paragraph, that the cost to connect to the sewer is like $4,078 an acre. So with 5-acre lots, that's about $20,000, a little over $20,000 per lot to hook up to the sewer. So we have the actual cost there in that first column to build a connector line. We're not able to connect directly into the interceptor line, so we have to build a connecting line from the interceptor so they can then connect into that line. And so I had Schmidt Engineering do estimates on the cost of doing those connector lines and all the costs associated with getting that set up so someone could hook into the sewer. And then the comparison there in that middle column is the cost of a septic system, which is what a normal person buying a 5-acre lot would incur. But if they bought these lots, had to hook into the sewer, between the engineer and construction costs and the connection fee, as you can see, I wrote on the right-hand column there the cost per lot to do that. And that's the extra cost there, over and above what you would pay if you paid $14,000 for the septic system. So you've basically added those, by forcing someone to hook into that connector line, you've added $25,000 per lot for tracks 1 and 2, $28,000 for track 3, and actually $63,000 for track 4. Additional costs over and above a septic system. And if you have a $50,000 lot and they're going to have to spend the $25,000 to $30,000 more than you would putting in a septic system, it just reduces the value of the lot by that amount. And so track 4, the reason that cost is so high is because Rick Schmidt thought it might be impossible to run a connector line under that creek. And there happens to be a sewer connection across Donde Lane to the west that you could hook into. It's within 200 feet. So he figured the cost of hooking into that, they have to run a line under the street. So that's why that one's so expensive. I don't know if you questioned that or not. It's just a matter of getting that connector line over to the property in some way is much more difficult. And so, in my opinion as a real estate agent, it pretty much makes track 4 unmarketable, and tracks 1, 2, and 3 are reduced by half or more. The other issue I didn't even figure in here is if you build that connector line, they still have to run the sewer line from their house to that connector line, wherever it might be. That's an additional cost. That could run $4,000 or $5,000, maybe more, depending on how far it is to get there. So it really makes this land a whole lot less in value, and some of it not even saleable as building sites. And of course, if you try to sell the land for other purposes, you get $3,000 an acre, maybe $4, but it's just. And I just might add and point out, and I don't know if Charles wants to address this, but his parents were given $5,000. That was what they were paid to put this interceptor line through there, and it's reduced the potential value of it by $100,000 or more, and they were reimbursed $5,000. And they were also told it shouldn't affect the value of the land. They should never. They're never going to be required to hook into it. Of course, the White family who lived in that house, that was fine with them. But knowing that it would affect the potential value of this land like this, I'm sure that they would have wanted to be paid a lot more than $5,000. So I don't know if Charles wants to add anything more to that.
Is that in writing somewhere where that guarantee was made?
I think.
You said that they guaranteed that it would never discount the value of the property, or? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah.
I would have to look.
And please identify yourself for the record.
My name's Charles White, and it was my granddad's farm and then my parents' farm, and now we've got it. I got a brother that's in Atria, Hearthstone. Need to look after him, need to sell the property, is kind of what's going on with us. And I would have to look a great deal. I know that they told Dad that because they had told him that they would take him to court if he did not sign the paper, which seemed a little bit high-end to me. I mean, that doesn't quite seem the right way to approach a landowner. And like I say, Granddad bought the farm 100 years ago. Mom belonged to the Half Day Creek Club, a bunch of old ladies for 80-some years. And it just doesn't seem like their good wishes are appreciated. And the requirement to hook up to the sewer did not happen until about 12 years after the agreement to put the sewer in was signed. So there was certainly, as you say, there was nothing in the written word that they would be able to use the land. There was absolutely nothing in there saying that they would be required to hook up to the sewer and totally destroy the value of the land. That was not the spirit of the agreement at the time in any way, shape, or form. At the time, I talked to Dad 2 or 3 times, and it didn't start out really amicable, but in the end, Dad came along that he was doing something for the good of the county. And it just seems to me like he's really being punished, or his son, is the one in Adria, is being punished because he did what he thought was for the good of the county. And we're not real estate developments or anything. Dad had a Christmas tree farm there. And it just doesn't seem right to do something good for the county and then be told that the land is worthless because of the county not accepting a septic tank. And of the people around there, most of them are on septic tanks. There's zero chance any of this land is ever going to be used for development. It kind of goes like this. And Half Day Creek Club, they called it Half Day Creek because after a rain, it would be in your bedroom in a half day. Okay, and so the chances of a housing development going in there is just pretty slim. The terrain is not good. The engineer tells us that there's just barely room for one house on each of the 5-acre lots. So it's not good for anything else. It's just, and it just seems unfair to us that the county would not allow us to put a septic tank in there. I mean, all the neighbors on our side of the road have septic tanks. On the other side of the road, the sewer line is there. And if you got any questions, but it just...
Well, I would really like to hear from our health department
Sure.
to give their rationale for not.
If I could
Yes,
just ask just a
Commi-
couple
yes,
of
of course,
questions, Commissioner.
Of course, Commissioner.
Just to kind of make sure that we're setting the record clear. In 1999, when the county came in, and we talk about the compensation, your family was compensated $5,000 for putting the interceptor through their property.
Correct.
And there was not a requirement that the house that we see on the map over in the far top right corner, there was no requirement that that house connect.
Northwest corner?
Right.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Go.
Yes. But there was no requirement for that residence to connect into a sewer system, correct?
Correct.
And there would not be a requirement, as it's not within 200 feet of
The
the
intersection.
sewer line, right?
Potentially correct.
Okay.
However, at the time the agreement was signed, there was no requirement to hook up to the sewer.
Right.
So you kind of run your timelines together just a hair.
Right. Now, in addition to the $5,000, I understand from the paperwork that Mr. Armbruster put together that there was also additional compensation for Christmas trees that were cut
Right.
down when the interceptor line was put through.
Right.
And so the family was compensated for their loss when the interceptor line was put through with those Christmas trees.
For the loss of the cost of the trees, yeah.
Right.
Which they could have
Right.
sold and
Right.
Right. And at the time that the interceptor line was put through, this would, and to this date, if somebody still wanted to plant Christmas trees along there, would there be any prohibition on planting Christmas trees?
Absolutely. You can't do it. I think it's 200 feet to each side of the line.
Okay.
You can't disturb the soil.
All right.
And the machinery, if we did plant Christmas trees, then they have an optional, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think beyond the 200 feet, 400 feet, that if there were Christmas trees planted there and there needed to be a repair on the sewer line, they could just tear the heck out of the Christmas trees.
Okay, so they have an easement across.
Yeah, yes, I'm not a lawyer.
And then your
Did I say lawyer in a bad tone of voice?
your request is to have this divided into 4 sections.
Well, the family owns 2 of the sections on Button Road. Years ago, my younger brother bought the 2 sections. No, I got it wrong. The family owns the 2 lots on Dundee Lane. The younger brother purchased that 10 acres that he owns 30 years ago, 40 years ago, quite some time ago.
and he lives in Pennsylvania, and that's why he's not here.
Yeah, correct.
So,
And go ahead.
Basically, we have the White family for the 2 top tracks and Ken White for the bottom.
Sorry about that.
And then, Mr. Armbruster, if I just understand your presentation, as you are the realtor that's marketing these 4 potential lots, if I understand, again, your paperwork that you've prepared and your statement here today, if you're allowed to put a septic system onto those 4 lots, 4 septic systems, they would be marketable, in your opinion. But if you look at the cost of adding to the septic line, or to the interceptor, that then would drive the cost up to a point to where you would not be able to sell them?
I definitely wouldn't be able to sell tract 4, and tract 1, 2, and 3 would be either reduced by a value of $25,000 each or more, or possibly be very difficult to sell because you have to expect some homeowner who buys the lot to go through that process of building that connector line, the engineering, the plating. Most homeowners probably wouldn't want to go through that process. So that makes it more difficult to sell.
In other words, the cost of hooking up to the sewer is more than the total cost of the land. And we had sold 2 other lots that were north of that and more than 200 feet away. But if you have to hook up to the sewer, that's greater than the actual cost of selling the land. And who's going to buy land knowing that they're going to have to double that cost, $100,000, 96 I think, to hook up to the sewer? And like again, the laws and that sort of thing came into existence after Dad made the agreement, and he did it because they told him it would be helping the county. And that was the spirit of the thing. Mr. White, do this, don't make us take you to court, because it would be your civic duty, you would be helping the county.
But he was compensated. In all fairness, he was compensated.
I would not say in all fairness. I would say he was
Okay.
compensated because he didn't want to go to court.
Okay, very good.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
Well, that, I fully understand. Ed, I'm sorry.
I would
did
make
you have
one
something
comment.
else to
I
make?
could be wrong on this. It seems like the spirit of that law, the 200-foot law, is if you're platting and you have houses, you should hook onto the sewer. But where you have an interceptor line, not a sewer line per se, and you're not developing it, it just doesn't seem like that's the spirit of what the law was trying to accomplish.
Okay,
I don't know.
Understood. Ed, would you speak to the health department's feeling that the reason that you're denying the variance?
Our interest in the original request is from a public health point of view, and basically our default is that sewers are better than septic tanks. And when I have a specific site in the county code that tells me within 200 feet I have to hook up to a septic system, then that's typically what we go with. Andy Graham can answer any specific questions about this case, but typically what we look at if they do want to make a variance request is there something that keeps them from hooking up to the sewer, which we can live with, and that really a variance is not required, and we can let them use a septic system as long as it'll work. Or there's another law, a deed restriction or some other kind of restriction on that property that keeps the septic system from happening. Our problem with the economic standpoint, which is part of the variance request, is that we have no mechanism that allows us to say, you're really poor, it's going to cost you too much, you don't have to do this, or it's going to cost too much just because it's a lot of money, no matter how much you make. We don't want to set a limit, and we've talked about limits before, 50,000, 70,000, whatever that is. Once people know what that is, then they can make adjustments. And I'm typically not this, what's the word for it? Well, negative about people's nature, but it happens. So that's where this hearing comes in, where there's an option besides us looking at the economic feasibility. Also, in this particular case, we found out partway through, and I don't know when it happened, that there's the $4,000 per acre cost that we didn't know anything about. So we certainly weren't going to issue a variance and then find out 3 years from now when somebody actually noticed that the county just lost $80,000 based on selling 20 acres. So this is definitely something that we felt needed to come in front of the commissioners, because there's more to this case than just whether or not they hook up to sewer or have a septic tank. Because a septic tank is a possibility. That's not something that's not going to be able to happen. It can protect public health, but that is not our default and not the best way to go if there is a septic sewer system in place that meets the requirement for the county code.
Commissioner, do you have questions for Ed or Andy?
Just a couple of quick ones, and this may be just more for both of you. In reading the memorandum, and you talk about that there is not a economic feasibility and why this is coming to the commissioners, I'm left with, to take maybe a phrase from Commissioner Archer's old days with the Coast Guard, this is above your pay grade. There's not an economic standard. This is where the commissioners would actually have to develop policy and procedure because it's beyond what you guys feel would be comfortable making a decision on. Is that a fair statement?
I think so. I think part of it is the economic ability for us to decide based on an individual case is very difficult to do because of just the variety of situations that we've got. And there are other planning issues in this with the 3-mile limit and the urban growth area that we are not particularly familiar with. And there's still some, confusion as to whether the city says you can't hook up, but the county still needs you to hook up because there's a $4,000 per acre hookup fee, and we put sewer in this area. So there's still a little bit of non-meshing between city and county planning on that 3-mile area that we need to figure out.
Commissioner Gilroy?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Yes, come right back up, and that was, I wanted to make sure to see if you had any response to our health department, Mr. White.
Well, you had asked us if there was anything in writing from Dad, but one thing
Yes, sir.
that is in writing on the variance process is that if there is financial reason to grant a variance, which is the exact opposite of what the gentleman just said, that they don't consider the finances of the situation, the regulation itself requires that those finances be considered. It's in the terminology. And the other thing, the safety, I used to take care of the sewers for the city and the sewers for Jeffrey Energy Center. And all 4 of our neighbors to the north have septic tanks. I don't think anyone has ever had a problem, okay? If you're on low ground with a septic tank, and if you're, I forgot the terminology, the peripheral lines that you run away from, if they're on low ground, you can get in some trouble with the septic tank. But if you're up on the hill, like these properties are, it's not going to happen. There's just not much way. You can flood the tank, and if you do normal maintenance, they just don't go south the way they're built now. But I did want to mention that's his statement about the financial considerations. That's the exact opposite of what the language says.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you. Mr. White, anything else that you wanted to add? Or?
Well, like I say, all 4 of our neighbors to the north have septic tanks,
Okay.
so I don't think the health consideration. And I don't know if I should have said this last one, it certainly occurred to me, but the whole point of putting in the sewer was to accommodate the builders in the area, that it would be better to put in a housing development if it was served by a sewer, and if you'd want to do that. And it seems to me that, and I don't want to offend the county, because you are the county commissioners, and I was in the Coast Guard, the Academy, New London, but at risk of offending the county commissioners, it seems to me trying to make yourself look good on the books financially at the expense of somebody who's just lived there 100 years, it just seems to me that the county is, looking back, trying to make the paperwork on that sewer look good. The $80,000 that the gentleman had mentioned.
Okay.
I don't know that it's our responsibility as citizens of Shawnee County to make up for a sewer line that was meant to serve others, the housing developers, because we're not them.
Okay. Okay. Again, thank you.
Thank you.
Ed, anything else that you want to add? No, thank you. Tom Block, do you have anything that you want to add as our head of Public Works? And you don't have to at this point, but I know that you have discussed it in the
Yeah,
past.
no, I'd be happy to.
Thank you. I didn't want to put you on the spot.
No, I'll give you a little background from what I know. What I do know has basically been handed down to me because a lot of this, what had occurred, happened long before I'd been on with the county. But I have a little drawing up here of this area, and I'll give you a little bit of background. If I can get it open here. Let's see here. I'll give you a little bit of background of why the sewer, as I understand it, was ever constructed in the first place. And I forgot my pointer, so I'm going to have to use my pen a little bit. This is the area, whoops. Oh my gosh. You're out of control here. This is the Half-Day Creek sewer basin area. And as I understand it, back in the early 90s, there were several sewer sub-districts that were there, and they each had their lagoons, and I believe there were 4 of them. 4, 31, I think 17, and 69, I think was what they were called. But they all had their own lagoon systems, and they are all starting to fail around the same time. And it was really, at that time, was the belief that having lagoons was a inferior option than to have public sewer. So to help resolve this all at one time, the city and the county worked with KDHE to build what's called the Half-Day Creek Interceptor Sewer, which is this red line here. And the county joined forces with the city to build it, and I have a copy of an agreement, which is contract C55-94. So this is 1994 when this occurred. That actually the 4 districts were 4, 15, 17, and 31, all up in this area. And they're going to build this interceptor sewer to take all those lagoons off system and put them into public sewer. And the city and the county, as I mentioned, had agreed to join forces to construct this sewer main. And the county, there was a loan taken out, and the county paid, I don't know the exact amount, I'm trying to find out what that number is, but I think it's well over $1 million, millions of dollars, to help with this sewer system, to provide public sewer to all this area in the future. And so that was an agreement. I don't know exactly when the sewer was built, but that was agreement to get the project rolling. And then in 95, there was a resolution 95-112, which initially set up connection fees to this sewer. So everyone and all the land that was in this district was going to be required to connect and be served by public sewer. And looking at that, it looked like the connection fees at that time ranged anywhere from, just a little over $1,000 up to about $1,500 per acre. And there were also lots that had already been developed that had a certain connection fee assigned to them. Then in 2001, this resolution 95-112 was revised and updated, and this resolution 2001-121, which basically amended the previous resolution, and it revised the connection fees up into the $4,000 per acre amount, which how that came to be, I really don't know. And what the reasoning was behind it, why the increase, I really don't know. But the whole purpose was that, at least I can only assume, the whole purpose was that the county made a major investment in infrastructure to this area, and it needed to recoup those costs to help pay for this. And as I've mentioned to you before, as Mr. Kalis had indicated, there is some issue with the city's most updated land use and growth management plan, which to me is in conflict with what we're trying to do here and get everyone on public sewer.
as I mentioned, probably 9 months ago or so, there was a platted subdivision. I believe it was called the Brickyard subdivision. They had platted with lots and all this. Well, someone came in and bought the ground where that subdivision was to be. They were allowed to replat it and leave a little strip to get that land more than 200 feet away from a public sewer to, in my opinion, essentially circumvent the connection fee process. Well, my opinion is that cost the county over $200,000 in potential lost future revenue to help reimburse the cost of this interceptor sewer. So I don't know how much the county paid initially to the city, but in the agreement that we have, it does say the county was going to pay a one lump sum to the city to help pay for these costs, and now they have the ability to unilaterally, in my opinion, again, I'm not an attorney either. There's two of us in this room that are not attorneys.
Actually, three, 4.
Yeah.
But they now have the ability, in certain cases, to unilaterally determine if the county can recoup the cost to pay for the infrastructure that the county, I believe, has already paid. So that is an issue that has occurred, and is an issue that will keep rising up. But the whole purpose, again, when setting these fees, as I understand it, was the county made a major investment for infrastructure, for public sewer, because public sewer is, in the long run, a better option than individual septic tanks, because the septic tanks all fail at different times. And but I do understand that is, I mean, that is not a small amount of money we're talking about. When you come with a large lot, I can fully appreciate where the Whites and Mr. Armbruster are coming from, but that gives you a little background, I think, of where we are and what the thinking was and how to get recouped for that, or reimbursed for that infrastructure investment.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Thank you, Tom. That was informative and helpful. Mr. White, I see you raising your hand, and please come back.
I didn't expect to be up here this much today, but the thing that keeps coming to my mind is that the county has adjusted. There are at least 3 and I think 4 times that not necessarily legislation, but regulations have been changed, like, for instance, what the gentleman referred to. Originally, the cost to hook up to the sewer was, or not even originally, but in 1995, it was $1,000. But the county keeps amending the original agreement, the easement that was granted, and if they have that power, why shouldn't we? In other words, the easement that my dad granted those people is just a fairy tale at this point in time, because they have recreated it 3 and 4 and 5 different times.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone else that would like to comment on this particular issue? Then I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
A second.
Motion made to close the hearing by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. At this point, I want to move to accept the information that has been presented as record in this matter and announce that a written decision will be made by the Board of County Commissioners on a future date not to exceed 30 days. Our county counselor wanted some time to review the information presented and to provide some recommended standards for the Board of Commissioners to consider when deciding this issue. Because this issue might arise in the future, it's recommended that we consider the policy implications of either approving or denying this. So that is a motion to accept this information and to provide a written request within 30 days.
Agreed, I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. And thank you all for participating. It was very helpful, I think, information for the commission. Next item, please.
Item B2, consider approval of a Kansas Health Foundation impact grant application for funding in an amount of $18,368 and $1,029 from the Shawnee County Health Department operating budget to implement a community garden for women, infant, and children clients.
Good morning, Commissioners. Craig Barnes, Shawnee County Health Department. Hopefully this item will take a little bit less time. But this item here is for the Health Department to apply for a grant through the Kansas Health Foundation to implement a community garden on the grounds there at the Health Department at the J.P. Lewis building. What this will allow us to do is to do some nutrition education with the WIC clients and their families based on growing their own produce, to increase the sustainability of those families to produce food for their families that they might not otherwise have access to. It'll also allow us to, in the turn of that nutrition education, but also to increase an access point for families who might have limited access to healthier foods, to pick up foods there that them and the volunteers through the health department have cultivated through this program. So that is our plan. We look at ultimately building 9 garden beds in a space there that would grow a lot of different produce, some that would be grown annually and some that would be planted perennially. So I would be more than open to any questions that you might have.
Questions or comments?
Questions? No, and this is just to submit the grant?
Just submit the grant, yep.
And
Mhm.
when will we receive notification?
We would find 45 days after the grant was submitted.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion, but I might also comment. I mean, I think this is a great initiative. We want to address community health standards, talk about healthy eating. Community gardens are a way of one-on-one interacting. How people can implement these things in everyday life are great. But the J.P. Lewis building really is not in a residential community. It's someplace that people have to travel to. You're there for other services. If we're going to insert ourselves into the community, we should be looking at these at our community centers, whether it's Rice or Garfield or Hillcrest, and really building this into being part of the community. And so, I'm not opposed to the grant application. I think that it's an initiative we should worth. But if we're going to look at this healthy standards and community gardens, having it really impact where the people live.
I might share with you Heartland Healthy Neighborhoods. I believe on their website, Lissa did a map of all the community gardens. Granted, they're probably not flourishing now, but they will be. But I believe there is a Shawnee County map of where the community gardens are located. Some of them are with elementary schools.
Correct.
I can't remember all the
And I do
locations.
believe our community centers, maybe Oakland has a community garden. It had one, okay. So it is something, and this one here is really to kind of get our feet wet and kind of figure out how to do this, I guess you could say as a pilot program, and specific to our WIC clients that do come into the health department. So it gives us another opportunity to discuss nutrition education in a differing way than we normally do, and then as a turn be able to create produce that we can give to our WIC clients. So, But I do love the idea of partnering with Parks and Recreation in the future to be able to look at these gardens and creating more avenues to create more access to healthy foods in the future.
Well, and I think even the city of Topeka passed an ordinance for vacant
Correct.
lots, that you could have gardens in vacant lots as well. So
Correct.
I think we're making some progress, not as much as we would like, I think, but it's another step.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I'll move approval to submit the application.
Second.
Okay. Motion made to approve by Commissioner Bueller, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Next item, please.
Item C, Parks and Recreation. Number 1, consider approval of grant application for a competitive development grant from the Kansas Department of Wildlife Parks Community Fisheries Assistant Program to combat the chronic planktonic algae problem in Central Park Pond with a 25% funding match of $586.87.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Knight, Parks and Recreation. Just to follow up a little bit on the community gardens. When I moved out of the city and into the country, I, of course, started my own garden there. And the problems that came along with that is the fattest raccoons in western part of Shawnee County, because I never did even get a sample my own sweet corn because those raccoons got to it every time. But anyway, I'm sure Craig and his people will have a way around that. The item before you guys this morning is an application for a grant for us to, we've tried numerous different ways to address the algae and other problems that we've had at some of our ponds. This is a grant to work with the Wildlife and Parks and Tourism to see if we can address the problem at the Central Park Community Center pond. Be happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Questions, comments? I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion made to approve by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Next item, please.
Item 5, Administrative Communications.
Morning, Betty Greiner, Director of Administrative Services. Last Thursday evening, the Topeka Youth Project had their awards dinner, and I was able to attend on behalf of the county. The Shawnee County was awarded the Outstanding Employer for their youth court, and they were very appreciative of the support that the county gives them, as well as the use of the courthouse. So I wanted to bring the plaque to you.
Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you. Thanks for going on our behalf as well. That's very nice.
Nice.
Commissioners, Tom Block, Public Works and Solid Waste. Just another reminder, this Saturday is our electronic recycling event, or e-cycle, which will be taking place at the parking lot of the Expo Center from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And again, that's free collection of basically anything that has a cord or a battery. Although there's been some changes in regulations, so lots of TV, like CRTs, certain types of televisions, they do charge a nominal fee for that, but most everything is free of charge. So we've had great success. The first 2 years we've done this, so hopefully we will have a lot more people come to this one also.
Yeah, it's a great event that just keeps going by leaps and bounds. So,
Thank you.
yeah. Thank you, Tom.
Morning, Commissioners. Les Crooks, Kansas Expo Center. Last weekend, very busy. One of a multitude of weekends over the course of the year where all 5 venues were in use. The big events were the barrel race, the boxing event in Landon, and then also the Evening as a Child Gala in the exhibition hall. So this week there's an Assemblies of God meeting tomorrow. American Quarter Horse Association show starts moving in this week, and then we have a multitude of events on private events this weekend coming up, which I'll share with you on Thursday. So thanks.
Very good. Thank you, Les.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. I believe Major E. Kendall mentioned something last week a little bit, but I wanted to share everybody that last Thursday we had our 17th annual Volunteer Appreciation Banquet, where we were able to recognize and thank over all of our volunteers who come into the Department of Corrections. We have over 100 volunteers who give almost 600 hours a month to our offenders and our families in the community, a wide range of programs to help us to break the cycle of reoffending. This was an outstanding event. I want to thank the commissioners for their continued support. Thank Commissioner Bueller for attending. This was an outstanding, again, an outstanding event for us. One of our favorite, Sheriff Jones, was our keynote speaker, talked to us about the value of our volunteers in the community, and a tremendous message on how important it is, because a lot of times people in corrections, a lot of people just see or believe what happens on TV is what happens, and a lot of people don't come in to help, and we would truly not be successful if it wasn't for our volunteers. So again, thank you all for allowing us to have the ability to be creative in those areas, and we are looking for more volunteers. I'd like to double our volunteers, and if anybody's interested, please don't hesitate, give us a call. We have specific training for that, and we're open to any program that is out there to help us better our inmate and offender juvenile population. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Craig Barnes, Health Department. One thing that I just wanted to put out, and I know Jeff sent out an email about it this morning, but this Wednesday is National Walk at Lunch Day. So understanding that any type of physical activity is good physical activity, we just wanted to try to push out for everybody, to not only county employees, but for the public as well, to get out and try to get a 30-minute walk on Wednesday during their lunch hour, no matter what time it is. If they're available, the Blue Cross Blue Shield is hosting a 30-minute walk at noon on Wednesday the 26th at the Capitol building. So if you're able to go there, they will be doing that and giving out some free T-shirts as well. So, but we just wanted to encourage everybody to get out on Wednesday during the lunch hour and at least try to get a 30-minute walk in. So,
Oh,
all right.
Thank you. Thank you. You heard that, Commissioner Cook. Free T-shirts.
Yes.
Okay.
And walk
And walk. But you got to walk for a
at the
T-shirt.
Capitol on Wednesday. Got it.
Noon. Anyone else? Commissioner Bueller?
Job well done
Oh.
at the State of the Community
Thank you.
Address. And the mayor did an outstanding job as well. And the students from Shawnee Heights, they were fun to watch. And that's the second time I had seen their presentation, but they did a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent job.
Yeah.
I concur. Very good job done at the State of the Community.
Thank you. Thank you. I do need to thank Mike McLaughlin, particularly, who helped tremendously in preparing me for the State of the Community address. Thank you, Mike. You're still here. Excellent. Excellent. I can't say enough. And again, I did try to highlight our senior leadership team that we're just proud of. There's just no getting around it. We have an excellent employees, and our senior leaders are just outstanding. So I did want to highlight that once again. I can't say that enough. Anything else? Next item, please.
Item 6, executive session.
There's not a need, so we are officially adjourned.